Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Young Guns. I'm Will, along with Jeffrey, and we got Sam here from Washington State from the band. So much for coming on, Sam.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Jeffrey, for having me. Go Cougs. Happy to be here.
hmm So, unfortunately, with everyone in college football right now is talking about what's going on with Mike Leach. Can you just tell me how much he meant to Pullman and the Cougs?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like the whole town is just so heartbroken. And just, the whole college football world because of his indelible impact on our sport and just on everybody who had the pleasure to meet him. Mike Leach, basically, the WC football is what it is today because of Mike Leach. He took a program that when he walked in 2012, that had 4 wins over the past 4 seasons, didn't have a winning season, had not had a winning season since 2003. And he just turned it around. 6 bowl games over the course of 8 seasons, 5 in a row, and of course a magical 2018 season with ESPN College Game Day coming to town, Gardner Minshew just being the folk hero that he was and is, and just a lot of good memories. They beat number 5 USC the year prior in 2017, and so there's just a lot of good memories associated with Mike Leach football wise, and then in terms of his impact on the community, there's no one else like him. Obviously, he everyone knows his tirades that he would go on about, who would win in a Pac-12 mascot fight, student loans, playing the triangle. The fact that he would want to play the triangle in the marching band. There's a video of him like the band's practicing on the field, and he's just talking about, oh, I'd love to play the triangle in the marching band, and it's just such a unique personality. You might disagree with him on a whole host of issues, but aside, when you really get down to, what matters as humans and, that genuine connection that people have, Mike Leach was someone you wanted to have in your corner. And you probably did, whether you wanted to or not, because he could strike up a conversation with anybody. I never had the pleasure to meet him. I came to school in 2020 after he'd gone to Mississippi State. But just, there's still students who were here when Mike Leach was here. There's about, I don't know the exact number, but probably about a quarter of the football team was recruited by Mike Leach, probably even more actually, about half. And so, Mike Leach's impact, it's very real now immediately, and it will live on for years to come because he was so incredible.
hmm And you guys had another coaching change last year with Nick Rolovich having to step down and Jake Dickert coming in and doing a fantastic job with the Cougs.
Yes, yeah. The Nick Roller situation was tough, especially after so many years of stability under Mike Leach, the pandemic, and then just Rolovich's relationship with the pandemic, and then the situation that kind of lasted into the 2021 season. It was not good for anybody. And when he was eventually fired and Jake Dickard was brought in, just a kind of wave of stability washed over the program. Dickard, he's built for a small town. He's from Wisconsin, and at every job he's had, he's kind of North Dakota, but Wyoming, he's kind of, I believe North Dakota was South Dakota. He's been in those like small town settings, and he just thrives in that. He's got kids, and I saw a tweet once that his daughter was like about 10 when he was hired last year permanently, and she's probably had to move. She has had to move like 7 times or something like that, multiple times throughout her short life. And the fact that he now has a head coaching gig for a 5-year contract here in Pullman, that they can really build a life. And with, a really good year one under his belt, plus, the amazing Apple Cup victory that was last year. Forget this year. I'm ready to forget about it. But last year, 40-13, just incredible. Jake Dickard, he's just a pleasure to interact with, just a pleasure to know. And just, one more anecdote just about him, just kind of shows community presence. He visited, I'm in the marching band. He visited marching band camp this past August. Evidently, he played trombone in high school, and he got to take a picture for our trombone section. They have a section flag and everything. And just to show how small the town Pullman is, our marching band director was actually his son's baseball coach over the summer. So he knew Dr. Benefield, and he praised us for the work we do. And it was just that small town, college town atmosphere that he just fits right in. So it's been awesome.
That's awesome. So this season for the Cougs, it was a great start, a little bumpy at the middle, and then a pretty strong end. But of course, to talk about the Cougs season, have to talk about Jake Dickard going back to his home state and taking down the Badgers, a ranked top 20 Badgers team at the time, 17-14. How excited was the Palouse when that happened.
It was hopping, jumping, you could say, jump around, woohoo. We basically stole that song, and at every home game following that, we played jump around in like the third quarter, at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So it was insane. It was just incredible. Everything that Jake Dickert wanted to do with the team, he did. Just an incredible defensive showing. Don Henley, bringing like the best linebacker that Palouse has seen in a while, and just that kind of. I don't want to say we peaked there, but we kind of did because the rest of the season was a little iffy. I will say we probably peaked halftime against Oregon 2 weeks later when Francisco had that pick six, and we went into halftime with a little bit of a lead, and then 20 minutes of football later, after we took a 29-point lead, it's all gone. The Wisconsin game, just back to the positives, that was incredible. You really saw the team kind of focus on Jake Dickert's message and focus on kind of the team message. Everyone doubted, even here on the Palouse, everyone doubted the Cougs. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna get blown out." No, obviously, Wisconsin didn't end up having as good of a season as everybody thought they would. Fell out of the top 25 super quickly, but they're still bowl eligible. Still, that's a hostile environment, Camp Randall, and so it's just a landmark win, milestone win that the program that Jake Dickert and everybody will be talking about for a while. And so that's the kind of game highlight you show recruits when they come to visit. This is what you can do if you come to Pullman. So
didn't your chancellor Elizabeth Shilton, is that how you say it?
Shilton, yeah.
I love when she tweeted jump up and sit down. That was a highlight of that was one of the Twitter highlights of the Pac-12 and all of the college football season.
Yeah. Definitely.
I will say, to your point about Jake Dickert, how he brought stability, he really did. In Washington State, kind of in a little bit of a rut. He turned around last season, and this year, even though, to your point of them peaking against Wisconsin, one player, in my opinion, that completely did not peak against Wisconsin's Cameron Ward. He's improved as the season's gone along. Maybe Washington State as a team overall maybe has not, but he has, because in the beginning of the season, he was throwing picks, and he had 2 picks in a lot of games, and a couple picks every now and then that he shouldn't have had, but he hasn't thrown a pick in 5-6 games. He's been playing fantastic. Just what are you seeing in the improvement of Cameron Ward? Is it because it had to take time for him to adjust from the FCS to the FBS, and he's finally figured it out, or he's just improved overall?
Yeah. To your point, I think the whole team, but particularly Cameron Ward, have improved since over the course of the season. We had the fortunate and unfortunate to play in the Pac-12. All 5 of our losses were to top 25 opponents, and so we're kind of in that transition period where we take care of the teams below us, but we can't quite get there against the teams above us. And Cam Ward, he was a huge part of kind of keeping us in those games, like, losses to Utah, losses to Oregon, losses to Washington. We were in those games. I don't think we had a lead against Utah, but, we were in those games. They were close games, competitive. And, we lost this. It was a tale of 2 halves, obviously, both for the season, but for individual games. Like in the Apple Cup, we scored 27 points in the first half and then only 6 in the second half. But Cam Ward, just to focus on him, absolutely incredible decision making, and there was a lot of instability along the offensive line. Guys were being switched around. We had some injuries late in the season, but despite kind of the chaos that was around him, the whole team played well around him and rallied around him, and just his decision making, incredible. That pick against Oregon, where it was kind of like the pick six, like that's gonna probably haunt him for a while, but he made sure that he didn't make a mistake like that again. And I guess that you could say that was more of like a defensive, just happenstance. It wasn't really on him, but he just came out there, trusted his receivers. Robert Farrell, who followed him from Incarnate Word, was his security blanket, and just kind of lit it up throughout the season. Really happy to have him in this bowl game for one last game. And so Ward, just his decision making skyrocketed. His just comfort in the system and confidence in himself and trust in his teammates, that increased. And so that grew until you really saw kind of what Cam Ward could be. And I'm really excited to see what he can be in 2023.
Were people really excited about him coming from the FCS? Because that's a big jump, but I think he's been able to make it. What were the expectations going into the season for him?
Now, I guess at least the sports fans I interact with, they have, high expectations. Like if anything goes wrong, they're, throwing their remote down and just, like throwing their hat down, just kind of walking away. But to be realistic, Cam Ward kind of did what you'd expect someone making that jump, making that transition to do. He struggled at first, as we talked about, and then really grew into it. You guys probably saw his NIL deal was pretty generous by Pullman standards. He got a truck from like GM, like a 6-hour car dealership that's like 6 hours away in the Seattle area. And he got, an apartment sponsorship and all sorts of sponsorships. But, that's what college football is now. You got to reward those guys that you're going to build your program around. And I think that Cam kind of lived up to that. Could he have been better? Of course. But I'm really excited. I think he kind of met expectations, realistic expectations. And yeah, so I'm satisfied. I'm personally satisfied with Cam Ward. And I think the majority of, clear thinking Coug fans are as well.
So you got some dudes on the defense with Ron Stone and Brennan Jackson on the D line. Like, how good is it to have those guys just set the tone and get after the quarterback and stop the run?
Yeah, they're incredible. Great team presence. Apprentices, both of them, recruited under Leach. They've stayed with the program through, now 3 head coaches over the course of 4 seasons. And just their leadership and their focus, and then, their actual performance on the field have been just such a difference maker. Now what you did see, and, what you would like to see is, them like close and get to the quarterback, get sacks. But regardless of what shows up in the stat sheet, they are creating disruption on every single snap. You always see them in the backfield. You always see them making O-line miss and just kind of getting in the QB's head. And that's exactly what you want from, your edges. And they just do a great job. And in terms of just kind of their locker room presence, you guys probably saw RJ got a chance to be an analyst for the Pac-12 network at the Pac-12 championship in Las Vegas. That's his. I'm a Murrow student. He's also a Murrow student, and so at the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication here at Wazoo, which is pretty, it's a pretty great college. And so the fact that our athletic director Pat Shun and our head coach Jake Dickert, they made that call to Pac-12 and say, hey, this is something RJ is really good at. Are you going to give him a shot? And Pac-12 said yes. And he just kind of took that and ran away with it and did awesome. So RJ, incredible personality off the field, and then just such a difference maker on the field, on and off. So yeah,
that's awesome. And you mentioned him a little bit ago, but Deion Henley, like, he's just been amazing. He's a redshirt senior, so he's been around like such a long time. Pullman, are you excited to see him in the NFL? Just how much has he meant for this Cougs program at the linebacker position, and also special teams too?
Certainly. It may not look like it, but he's only been in Pullman for 11 months. He transferred from Nevada. No, yeah, you're good. But because that builds to the point though, he's so good and so comfortable in this system that you'd think that, he'd been here all 6 years. But part of that is that he kind of followed Brian Ward, our defensive coordinator from Nevada. And so in terms of the system, he is very comfortable. But another part of that is just that he's just the pure talent that he has, constant, getting into double digits and tackles pretty consistently throughout the course of the season, disrupting the plays that the offense tries to run, and just being all around great guy, great leader. He made the game-saving play, kind of set the tone from week 1 against Idaho. Now, the Idaho game, that was a little embarrassing. There are like little brothers just 8 miles away to our east. And, the Battle of the Palouse is supposed to be more like the brawl, like the total annihilation of the Palouse, a la Washington State on Idaho. But that was a close game, and it should not have been a close game. But, Deion made the game-saving play at the end to secure the 7-point win. And just, the fact that he stepped into moments like that and made plays happen, he was just incredible. And so I'm really excited to see him in the NFL. I think he's probably a solid 2nd or 3rd round, maybe even late 1st round draft pick. And, guys are just really excited. I understand why he's sitting out the bowl game, because, you got to respect that. He's got a whole career ahead of him. And I'm really happy that he made the trip to to LA with the guys to kind of be a sideline presence and take on a little bit of a coaching role. They asked some of the journalists that made the trip to LA, they asked Coach Dickert today. How was Coach Day on? He said, well, Coach Day on, I mean, a few things to work on coaching wise, but just his positive presence has been incredible. And so he's a leader on that team. And just the season he's had, it'll go down in Wazoo history. And, when they're looking at, what should a linebacker be in Pullman? What can they be? They'll look back at Deion Henley and say, this is what can be achieved on the Palouse, even in just 11 months.
Now, on about the bowl game with Fresno State, 2 questions. Number one, you mentioned how he's opting out, Dan Henley, and you've also got a couple of receivers in the transfer portal, Don Vinali and Dazon Stribling. Some of those guys not playing in this bowl game. How do you think that's going to affect Fresno and Washington State, but being able to beat Fresno State? And the other question is that Washington State's had some issues in certain games on stopping the pass, like against Washington and Oregon. Do you think that they will be able to handle Jake Haener?
Yeah. To be completely realistic, we're probably going to get carved up just like we had against Oregon and Washington. Like Fresno State season, they're kind of like the polar opposite of us narrative-wise. They started 1-4. We started 4-1. And then they just had an incredible second or, last 3 quarters of the season to just, secure that Mountain West championship. And just the players that are on that team, they've been doing a lot. And when you look at kind of the personnel that we've got, yes, we're down to Dazon Stribling with Oklahoma State. We're down Donovan Ollie. We do have Robert Farrell, who will be a security blanket for Cam Ward, like not just a security blanket, but just a weapon. Like there, that play on during the Apple Cup, 4th and 10. They went for it a lot on fourth down, but 4th and 10 became a touchdown thanks to that Ward to Farrell connection. So if they can whip a few trick plays like that and not have kind of their second half shivers, then the Cougs may stand a chance. I think it'll be a close game for sure. Defensively, not only are we down Dan Henley, but we're also down our kind of all of our starting linebackers. Travion Brown with the transfer portal from Disco Mayagoa, who made that epic pick 6 against Oregon. He's in the transfer portal. And so there's some question marks kind of in our linebacker ranks, but the D-line and the secondary are largely intact in terms of our starters. And so it'll be really a good chance for some of the younger guys, both on the defensive side and on the offensive side. So we have some young receivers that caught some touchdowns late in the season and kind of been turning heads. So it'll be a chance for the younger guys to step up and kind of show what they can do in the bright lights of SoFi Stadium. I'm excited for that. And it'll also be a chance for some of our coaches to show what they can do. Our defensive coordinator, Brian Ward, and I might be jumping to the next question maybe, but the defensive coordinator, Brian Ward, was hired at Arizona State. He's from Arizona to be at the DC for that new program. And then just yesterday, Eric Morris was hired as the head coach at North Texas. And so he's also going home to Texas. So, some coaches choosing to go. The Palouse can get lonely, and there's greener pastures are waiting for them. And so, the mood is that we're really happy for them to make those career strides, but obviously it leaves us kind of in this position of limbo for this bowl game. But Jake Dickert's back in his element. He's serving as defensive coordinator for this game. Clay McGuire and one of the other offensive coaches are going to be calling plays on the offensive side. Eric Morris kind of already made the game plan, so like the script is there, but we'll see how they can make play calls under pressure and adapt to the kind of the flow of the game when Fresno State will be a fight. And if the Cougs, this sounds cliche, if the Cougs do everything right and do what they can, the potential to do, they could win. So
I think off of your point, it's crazy about Fresno State. A lot of people don't know how they started the season, like you said, kind of struggling. But the only reason why they did was because of the fact Jake Haener at quarterback. The only game that they lost that he was completely healthy and played the whole entire game was the Oregon State game, and they lost by 3. Yeah. And Oregon State's really good. They lost to USC by a lot, but he got hurt in that game, and then they lost 2 more games without him. So they could easily be 11-2 right now if he hadn't missed any time. So Fresno State is really solid, and this is going to be a fantastic bowl game.
Yeah, it's going to be like great entertainment. So 12:30 on ABC. Tune in. It'll be just awesome. So 12:30 Pacific.
How excited are you to see SoFi? Like, it just looks so cool in there.
Yeah, I've never been there. So this is just going to be electric. I'm also a Seahawks fan, and so the Seahawks had some success in LA, beating both the Chargers and the Rams in LA, and they had that kind of cute little, oh, hey, look, we have 2 wins in SoFi, just like the Rams and the Chargers as at that point. And then, but anyway, so just SoFi it's just an amazing environment. Not seeing the Super Bowl played there was awesome last year, and just I mean, it's honestly, you could consider it the best stadium in North America, or at least best football stadium in North America. So I think, everyone that gets a chance. I know that I have some friends who are from, there's a huge, like, not huge, but, decent Southern California population that goes here to Wazoo. They're flying home after finals week, catching the game. And so, all the folks, all the Cougs that have a chance to go down there, our alumni base down there, we've got lots of folks working in LA and around there. So the Cougs will show up. It should be a fun time, and just, SoFi, it's going to be a wonderful experience for the players to just be in that environment and to just experience everything that whole game has to offer. They went to Universal Studios for just some fun this afternoon, so they're down there early enjoying their time. And so it's a great experience for the football team to kind of bond and grow closer together, and then great experience just for the WSU brand as a whole to be in the spotlight.
Yeah. I mean, you always see the flag of Wazoo, but you don't always see them playing on the big stage. So it's great to see them there. Thanks so much, Sam. You're awesome. Do you want to drop any social media, like for your school newspaper or anything, or just yourself?
Appreciate it. Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at BatSam155. The Daily Evergreen, I'm the sports editor at their school paper, and you can follow the Daily Evergreen at the Daily Evergreen. And I'm also a member of Wazoo Sports Network, which is kind of our student video production. So we make sports shows, kind of like we have Coug Zone, which is like an ESPN style show, Coug on the Clock, which is like a Pardon the Interruption style debate show, and a slew of other shows. I worked on a show this year called Kilgore's Court, which is like a late night style show. So we brought on our football social media coordinator, Dallas Hobbs, and talked to him about his journey. He was a player WC football last season, and now he's the huge part of their social media team. And so it's just been awesome. Wazoo is just such a great place. If anyone's considering studying communications, Wazoo is the place to be. It's right up there. And I'll probably end my shameless plugs now. But thank you guys so much for having me on. It was just a really fun time.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sam.